and Nina, thank you so much. Next up this evening, we have Jason Monitz, and her topic is talking about sex doesn't make you pregnant, and talking about death isn't fatal. So, here you are.
Good evening, everybody, and thanks for coming out tonight. My name is Jason Monitz. I'm here tonight representing a group called Final Steps. Final Steps has been working for approximately the last 2 years to get people to talk about their end-of-life choices, identical, whether it's mental, physical, or emotional discomfort, and our avoidance skills are phenomenally good. My book group read this book, written by a surgeon back in 2016, and we decided to share what we'd learned with the general community, and thus Final Steps was born. This book is not about dying, it's about living your best life to the very end. It's a fantastic book. We spend months planning for things like a wedding or a cruise or our retirement, but we don't spend even 5 minutes planning for our declining years and the end of life. And the number one reason that we don't do that planning is just plain old-fashioned fear, with maybe a little superstition thrown in for good measure. I want you to have a look at the message on this slide and think about it for just a second. Every single person on this planet is going to die at some point, and yet we've come to define death as a medical failure. That's pretty insane. The good news is that there's a worldwide grassroots movement to return death to just being a part of the human experience, the arc of human life, and not to medicalize it beyond all recognition. Now, this movement to demedicalize death also has its roots in the 1970s movement for natural childbirth. It took a huge cultural shift to get dads and birth coaches into the delivery room and to demedicalize childbirth. And we think that a second huge cultural shift is needed today. And please don't misunderstand me. I'm not opposed to high-tech medical care. It saved my life. It saved my father's life. But the fact is, we can get so caught up in medical details and techniques that we forget about the quality of life for the person who's lying in that bed. We can choose high-tech medical care, or we can choose home hospice, or we can choose Agape House. Every year, hundreds of people who would benefit from hospice care never get transferred out of the hospital. The number one reason for that is that we are not willing to acknowledge that every life must end at some point. If we can get past the fear and talk to one another about our choices, there are specific things that we need to talk about, like, what if I can no longer live independently? Where would I want to be? Who would I want to be with? What sort of pain control would I need? If your granny had a stroke tonight and she could not speak for herself, would you have any idea of the sort of medical procedures that she would or would not want to have done? Would you know, or would you be guessing? If we don't talk about our end-of-life choices, that does leave people guessing. And families get torn apart with differences of opinion over what should be done or not done for Granny. And people endure unwanted medical procedures just because we can't break that wall of silence. We can use high-tech or low-tech means of making our wishes known. We can walk on eggshells and choose silence and denial. But where does that get us? We can pretend we're all going to live forever, happily ever after, or we can be there for one another to the very end. We can give each other hope and a hand to hold on to. We human beings are created for connection. We can give each other the priceless gift of peace of mind if we're willing to have these courageous conversations. I'm so thankful every time I think of my mother that she shared her end-of-life choices with her adult children before we lost her to Alzheimer's disease. Again, high-tech or low-tech, the choice is yours. But these conversations could occur with an app, on a website, or you can sit around the kitchen table and you can speak to one another heart to heart. If you're old enough to have a driver's license, you're old enough to have these conversations. Final Steps is here to help you every step of the way with these courageous conversations. We have resources that we'd love to share with you and ways to help you get your foot in the door and start this with some courage and some confidence. We hope that you will take the handouts that we brought along tonight. They're on the table on the back of the room. Sign up if you'd like more information. You are going to find that if you engage, these are going to be some of the most meaningful conversations of your lifetime. So what are we going to choose? Is it going to be silence, regret, denial, or are we going to choose connection, clarity, and open-heartedness? Death comes to each of us. There are no escape routes. How we respond to that reality is up to each one of us. But the members of Final Steps do hope that you will choose and communicate and eventually document what your wishes are so that you can write the final chapters of your own life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jason. Definitely important things to consider. Now, does anyone in the audience have any questions? I guess I have a question. So, in documenting these final steps, is there something you need to do to make it legally binding?
Yes, there definitely are. That's the subject of a different lecture, I would have to say. But there are various documents that we hope every adult will fill out long before they're necessary, including your last will and testament, of course, your advance directive, which is also called a living will, your durable power of attorney so that people can conduct your business affairs, i.e. pay your bills for you if you're unable to do that for yourself. A healthcare proxy is also very important. And we do have handouts that talk about these sorts of things. We can refer you to websites, we can refer you to worksheets. The resources are abundant from all over the world. It's phenomenal what's out there to help you.
Question for you. What about a will that's done by video? Has anybody done a will by video?
What a will done by video?
Connect your loved one, so they saw you when you was living. And you was able to speak and say, I'm leaving this for that person, I wish for this to happen.
Yes, that's important. You can also do a completely handwritten will, as long as it's done in the handwriting of the testee, or in other words, the person who's doing the document. And that doesn't even have to be witnessed. If you do a recorded will, the ideal thing to do is to hold up some proof of the date, like a newspaper headline, for example, and also state specifically who you are going to email that recording to. Okay?
Anyone else? Anyone want to come forward to grab a mic?
Yes, it is. Yes, and there are also websites where you can, that are designed specifically for people to record their last will and testament, and we can direct you towards some of those websites as well. And in that case, you email somebody your password for access to that. Other questions?
Please. Mwande's book is based within the American healthcare system, and some of it is the fight between the perverse incentives that the medical community have through insurance and so on. Are there any significant differences within Bermuda's healthcare system that are different from the way Mwande deals with the subject?
From my research, I would say there are more similarities than differences, unfortunately. It costs about 2/3 less to be cared for in hospice than to be cared for at the hospital with the same level of care. And of course, that's a disincentive for a hospital to refer you to a hospice.
Sorry, but what I'm meaning is doctors who have an incentive to not care for you in the way you've requested, or, right? I know of cases in the States where doctors have not necessarily obviously gone against the wishes, but perhaps prolonged life because that's their training, but also because that's where the financial incentives are, as opposed to letting someone go gracefully and talking to them about it.
No, I would honestly say that I don't know a lot of situations like that. I know of a few, but very few.
Yeah.
Hooray.
Okay, thank you